Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Diriye. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Dhruv Maharaj returns home, text number 18 onwards. Maitreya Uvacha Athabhishtut evam ve satsankalpena dhimata Dhrityanurakto Bhagavan Pratinanded Adhyam Abravit. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, when Dhruv Maharaj, who had good intentions in his heart, finished his prayers, the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, who was very kind to his devotees and servants, congratulated him, speaking as follows. Text 19. Shri Bhagwan Uvacha Vedaham te vyavasitam kriti rajanya balaka Tat prayachami bhadram te durapam api suvrata. The personality of Godhead said, My dear Dhruva, son of the king, you have executed pious vows, and I also know the desire within your heart. Although your desire is very ambitious and very difficult to fulfill, I shall favor you with this fulfillment. All good fortune unto you. The Lord is so merciful to his devotee that he immediately said to Dhruv Maharaj, Let there be all good fortune for you. The fact is that Dhruv Maharaj was very afraid in his mind, for he had aspired after material benefits in discharging his devotional service, and this was hampering him from reaching the stage of love of God. In Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Bhogyashvarya Prasaktana. Those who are addicted to material pleasure cannot be attracted to devotional service. It was true that at heart, Dhruv Maharaj wanted a kingdom that would be far better than Brahmaloka. This was a natural desire for a Kshatriya. He was only 5 years old, and in his childish way, he desired to have a kingdom far greater than his father's, grandfathers, or great-grandfathers. His father, Uttanpad, was the son of Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, and Manu was the son of Lord Brahma. Dhruv wanted to excel all these great family members. The Lord knew Dhruv Maharaj's childish ambition. But how was it possible to offer Dhruv Maharaj a position more exalted than Lord Brahma? So only way possible was to give him a spiritual planet, because nothing is greater in the material world than Brahmaloka. The Lord assured Dhruv Maharaj that Dhruv would not be bereft of the Lord's love. He encouraged Dhruv not to be worried that he childishly had material desires, and at the same time had the pure aspiration to be a great devotee. Generally, the Lord does not award a pure devotee material opulence, even though he may desire it. But Dhruv Maharaj's case was different. The Lord knew that he was such a great devotee that in spite of having material opulence, he would never be deviated from love of God or from devotion service to the Lord. This example illustrates that a highly qualified devotee can have the facility of material enjoyment and at the same time execute love of God. This, however, was a special case for Dhruv Maharaj. So some special cases are always there like that. So like his devotees had wonderful material opulence, just like Yudhishthira Maharaj. Yudhishthira Maharaj, to put Yudhishthira Maharaj on the throne of the whole world, Krishna arranged this whole battle of Mahabharata. Because he knew Yudhishthira Maharaj was such a great devotee, even after getting the whole earth as a kingdom, he will not deviate from devotion service. Parikshit Maharaj, another great example. But there's so many. Bali Maharaj is there, although he was Asura, but when he gave everything to Vamandev, then Vamandev himself became his storekeeper. Ambarish Maharaj, another great example. So there are so many. Not too many, obviously. There, but the examples are there. Nanyadishchitam bhadram yad bhrajishnu dhruvakshiti yatra grihar kshatranam jyotisham chakramahitam medyam go chakra vatasthasnu paras tat kalpavasinam dharmo agni kashyapaha shukro munyo ve vanokasaha charanti dakshini kritya brahmanto yat satarakaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead continued. My dear Dhruva, I shall award you the glowing planet known as the pole star, which will continue to exist even after the dissolution at the end of the millennium. No one has ever ruled this planet, which is surrounded by all the solar systems, planets, and stars. All the luminaries in the sky circumambulate this planet just as bulls spread around the central pole for the purpose of crushing grains. Keeping the pole star to their right, all the stars inhabited by the great sages like Dharma, Agni, Kashyap, and Shukra circumambulate this planet, which continues to exist even after the dissolution of all others. Although the pole star existed before its occupation by Dhruva Maharaj, it had no predominating deity. Dhruv Loka or pole star is the center of all of the stars and solar system. For all of them circle around Dhruv Loka, just as a bull crushes grains by walking around and around the central pole. Dhruva wanted the best of all planets, and although it was a childish prayer, the Lord satisfied his demand. A small child may demand something from his father, which his father has never given to anyone else. Yet out of affection, the father offers it to the child. Similarly, the unique planet Dhruv Loka was offered to Maharaj Dhruva. The specific significance of this planet is that until the entire universe is annihilated, this planet will remain, even during the devastation which takes place during the night of Lord Brahma. There are two kinds of dissolutions, one during the night of Lord Brahma and one at the end of Lord Brahma's life. At the end of Lord Brahma's life, selected personalities go back to Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj is one of them. The Lord assured Dhruva that he would exist beyond the partial dissolution of this universe. Thus, at the end of the complete dissolution, Dhruva Maharaj would go directly to Vaikuntha Loka, to a spiritual planet in the spiritual sky. So Dhruva Maharaj, because he had attained such a great devotional service status that he would go directly to Vaikuntha Loka after this universe was going to be dissolved, to a spiritual planet in the spiritual sky. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in this connection that Dhruv Loka is one of the lokas like Shvetadeep, Mathura, and Dwarka. They are all eternal places in the kingdom of Godhead, which is described in Bhagavad Gita, Tadham Paramam. And in the Vedas, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surya. The words Parastat Kalpa Vasinam, transcendental to the planets inhabited after the dissolution, refer to the Vaikuntha planets. In other words, Dhruva Maharaj's promotion to the Vaikuntha Lokas was guaranteed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And just imagine, he did what? Just 6 months of great tapasya. Only in 6 months, he achieved everything. The greatest planet, the spiritual world, everything is here. Devotion, service to the Lord, love for Krishna, he achieved everything. Prasthite tu vanam pitra dattva gam dharma samshraya Shat-tri-shad varsha sahasram rakshita vyahyatendrayaha. After your father goes to the forest and awards you to rule his king, awards you the rule of his kingdom, you will rule continuously the entire world for 36,000 years. And all your senses will continue to be as strong as they are now. You will never become old. So another advantage of devotion service. In the Satya Yuga, people generally lived for 100,000 years. Dhruv Maharaj is ruling the world for 36,000 years. Was quite possible in those days. Tvadbhratar yuttame nashte mrigyayam tu tanmanaha anveshanti vanam mata davagnim savpravekshati. The Lord continued, sometime in the future your brother Uttam will go hunting in the forest. And while absorbed in hunting, he will be killed. His stepmother, Suruchi, being maddened upon the death of her son, will go to search him out in the forest, but she will be devoured by the forest fire. It's the same Uttam that was sitting on the lap of Uttanpad, and Suruchi stopped Dhruva from getting on the lap. The Lord is telling in what is going to happen in the future. Uttam will go hunting in the forest and he will be killed. He will be killed actually by the yakshas. And then Suruchi will become mad upon the death of her son, and she will go to the forest looking for her son, and she will be killed by the forest fire. Dhruv Maharaj came to the forest to search out the Supreme Personality of Godhead with the revenging spirit against his stepmother. His stepmother had insulted Dhruva, who was not an ordinary person, but a great Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is the greatest offense in this world. Because of having insulted Dhruva Maharaj, Suruchi would become mad upon the death of her son and would enter a forest fire, and thus her life would be ended. This was specifically mentioned by the Lord to Dhruva because he was determined for revenge against her. Although his mother told him not to take revenge, not to think even negatively about anybody. From this, we should take the lesson that we should never try to insult a Vaishnava. Not only should we not insult a Vaishnava, but we should not insult anyone unnecessarily. So we should not insult anyone. Another good point to note, because Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one place he says that if we commit offense against somebody and he's not a devotee, but tomorrow if he becomes a devotee, then we still have to pay for that offense. So when Mother Suruchi insulted Dhruv Maharaj, he was not a devotee, he hadn't done any tapasya, but still she had to pay for that offense. When Suruchi insulted Dhruv Maharaj, he was just a child. She, of course, did not know that Dhruv was a great recognized Vaishnava, and so her offense was committed unknowingly. When one serves a Vaishnava unknowingly, one still gets a good result. And if one unknowingly insults a Vaishnava, one suffers the bad result. A Vaishnava is especially favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pleasing him or displeasing him directly affects the pleasure and displeasure of the Supreme Lord. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his 8 stanzas of prayers to the spiritual master, has sung Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada. By pleasing the spiritual master, who is a pure Vaishnava, one pleases the personality of Godhead. But if one displeases the spiritual master, one does not know where is he going. So this is how important a lesson is for us to understand that never ever commit an offense against a devotee. Never ever insult a devotee. Sometimes the situation becomes very critical or very unavoidable. But this point should come to our consciousness right away. No matter what happens, it's better to leave the place instead of rather than offending a Vaishnava. There's a wonderful story in this regard. Even unknowingly, here it is said Suruchi insulted Dhruv Maharaj when he was a little boy. She didn't know he was a great Vaishnava. But nevertheless, she insulted him and he didn't like it at all. So once Rupa Goswami, he was in Braj, and he was in his bhajan kutir, and he was because whatever he wrote, it was his realizations that or revelations by the Lord. So he was writing a pastime, and the Lord was revealing the pastime to him in the sense that Rupa Goswami was there in the pastime of the Lord, and he was writing it here. So being in the pastime of the Lord, he saw at Kusum Sarovar of Govardhan, Radharani and other gopis have gone to collect flowers. So Radharani and every gopi, all the gopis were collecting flowers. Radharani went to a special tree with beautiful, fragrant flowers. And obviously they're collecting flowers to worship Krishna. So she was trying to collect flowers from a tree, and one of the branches of the tree was little higher than her comfort zone. So she just extended left hand and grabbed onto the branch and pulled it down a little, so with the right hand she could pluck the flowers. So she was doing that. Now Krishna, being Krishna, he saw Radharani doing that. So what he did with this, he climbed onto the tree. Radharani didn't even see him, unknowingly, and he pushed that branch a little bit more down with his foot. And then Radharani was plucking the flowers, and she had her left hand still on the branch. And then Krishna let go of that branch. So what happened when the branch got straightened up, along with the branch, Radharani went up. And with her left hand, she was hanging onto the branch, and now she was above the ground. So she was saying, "Oh Krishna, you rascal! See, what did you get me down? Everybody, somebody, please come help! Get me down!" And Krishna was laughing and laughing and laughing, how seeing the precarious situation of Srimati Radharani. And Rupa Goswami, in his bhajan kutir, he is watching this leela, and he started to laugh. It was funny. But what happened was, when he was laughing, a Vaishnava was crossing in front of his bhajan kutir, in front of Rupa Goswami's bhajan kutir. And that Vaishnava, that devotee, had some physical deformity. So he used to walk like langda ke chalna. He was walking in not a straightforward way. So he saw Rupa Goswami laughing. Although Rupa Goswami's eyes were closed and he was watching the pastime. And he thought that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me. And he felt insulted. He felt very bad, very morose. And though he didn't say anything to Rupa Goswami, and he just kept going, and he went to his hut. Now, when that Vaishnava felt bad, the pastime that Rupa Goswami was watching, it just disappeared from his heart. He tried to concentrate again, but he just couldn't. So he was surprised. What did I do? How come the pastime just got disappeared? So he went to Sanatana Goswami and explained everything to him. So Sanatana Goswami told him, you must have committed an offense against a Vaishnava, against a devotee. But Rupa Goswami said, I didn't even see anybody. I didn't even say anything to anybody. How can I commit an offense? Sanatana Goswami said, otherwise the pastime wouldn't have just disappeared. Okay, now what to do? So Sanatana Goswami suggested that you organize a feast and invite all the devotees from nearby areas. So whoever doesn't come means he's still holding that grudge against you. So he's the one you have offended. So go and beg forgiveness from. So Rupa Goswami, following the order of Sanatana Goswami, so he arranged for a feast, and that Vaishnava who was offended, he did not come because he was still upset with Rupa Goswami. And then Rupa Goswami understood, and he went to that Vaishnava's hut, fell down at his lotus feet, asked for forgiveness. He said, I was not laughing at you, I was laughing because this was a pastime I was seeing. And then that devotee was happy end of the story. But the lesson to be learned is even unknowingly we can commit offenses. Of course, we are guilty of committing offenses knowingly, but even unknowingly we can, and that could be detrimental for our bhakti. Detrimental in the sense of bhakti can stop. We might not make progress. So that's why bhakti is considered a very sharp razor's edge. One has to be very careful while performing bhakti. So sometimes people say, okay, so I can just go to a cave and not see anybody and do my chanting, and that's where I won't commit any offense. But the problem is, to make progress in bhakti, we need association of devotees. Again and again, this point has been brought up by different devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Prabhupada has stressed on this point, that we need association of devotees. Because without association of devotees, we cannot get fixed up in devotion service. But in the association of devotees, there's always a chance of committing offenses if we are not careful. So one has to be very, very, very careful. So perform your bhakti nicely, enjoy your devotional service, devotional life, but we have to be very careful for not committing offenses. And look at Suruchi, who was telling Dhruva Maharaj that you have to first please the Supreme Lord and then die and then take birth from my womb. Then you will be eligible to get on to the lap of your father and the throne. And here Lord is telling Dhruva Maharaj that Uttam will die and she will also die, going to the forest and looking for Uttam. She will die in the forest fire. In the same forest, well, maybe not the same forest exactly, but the forest is where Dhruva Maharaj went, and he achieved the lotus feet of the Lord. He achieved the devotion service and the wonderful Vaikuntha planet that is going to rule over. And Uttam and Suruchi will go to the forest and they will die. So forest is the same. It just depends on what consciousness we go to that kind of place with. So everything is possible, anything is possible, depending upon our consciousness. So again, one important thing, please, we all have to understand that let's not commit Vaishnava offense. So I'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hanji brother.
Prabhuji, today my son Brish Maharaj, he has a question to you. So he was hearing Bhava. So he himself will.
जी हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna.
प्रश्न है कि कृष्ण जी छोटी उंगली पे गोवर्धन पर्वत को क्यों उठाया?
गोवर्धन पर्वत क्यों उठाया था?
छोटे उंगली पे, मतलब काली उंगली पे।
अच्छा, छोटी उंगली पे क्यों उठाया था? वो इंद्र को ये दिखाना चाह रहे थे कि तुम्हारे में जितनी शक्ति है ना, मेरी छोटी उंगली के टिप में भी उससे ज्यादा शक्ति है।
अच्छा।
तो इंद्र का घमंड तोड़ना था, इसलिए।
थैंक यू प्रभु जी।
ये वेलकम।
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
ये वेलकम।
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
हरे कृष्ण।
Prabhuji, you were saying that सुरुचि ने वो ध्रुव महाराज के अगेंस्ट में अपराध किया था, क्योंकि उसने उसको उसने अपने फादर की लैप पे बैठने नहीं दिया। बट ध्रुव महाराज के जन्म से ही डिवोटी थे इतने, or because he has done penances at the age of 5 only, and then he became a supreme devotee of the Godhead. But was he a devotee right from the birth itself?
Well, that's what Prabhupada has written in his purport, but maybe some other Puran or some other place it might be mentioned. But even if he was not a devotee, because Suruchi had committed offense and he became a devotee later, the offense still counts.
She paid for the offenses that she committed unknowingly when he was not a devotee, and then when he became a devotee, she had to pay for it. And that's what you said also. But I just wanted to inquire because
Prabhupada also writes, she of course did not know that Dhruva was a great recognized Vaishnava. So maybe he was already a devotee, and previous life, what he did, I don't know. What's the story of his previous life? I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisance. Thank you for such a nice class. Prabhuji, I have a question. When we, as we are closely interacting with Vaishnavas, so what are the practical tips we can do to avoid offenses if, like Srila Rupa Goswami at such a high level, just by closing the eyes he can offend? And another thing is, like, I understand that this business of, this Vaishnava Aparad is repetitive also, as you're saying, right? We don't know who is not, so we should not offend, as you said, anyone. Now, if we are with the family members and we enter into situation because of the familiarity, parents or brothers, so how do we avoid committing those offenses and, handle the situation with too much of familiarity? With devotees, still we can maintain outside in temple some distance.
Yeah, at home it's very difficult. I know. It just one has to be very humble and tolerant in dealing with others. One very humble. Only a humble person will not commit offenses. And then even if we realize that I have committed, I might have committed, there's no harm in asking for forgiveness.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Manju. Okay, so I guess we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.